The first time I heard them say I smelled like something the maid forgot to throw out, they said it in French. They thought I didn't understand. I did. I stood 3 feet from them in the lobby of the Vance estate, holding a tray of champagne flutes I hadn't asked to carry, smiling the soft little smile my mother taught me to wear in rooms where rich people decide who you are before you open your mouth. The chandelier above us threw gold light across the marble floor. Snow tapped the tall windows. And the three most powerful alphas in Colorado stood shoulder to shoulder, looking at me the way you'd look at a stain. Regarde, il pue la pitié, Dominic murmured. Look at him, he reeks of pity. Mon Dieu, et ses yeux, Lucien said, soft and amused. And those eyes, like he's about to cry over a movie. Cassian, the quiet one, didn't laugh. He just looked at me, and his mouth did that thing where one corner lifted half an inch. Pauvre petit chose, he said. Poor little thing. I kept smiling. I kept smiling because my grandmother raised me in a small house outside Lyon until I was 11, and French was the first language I ever cried in. Because my mother brought me to Colorado after my father died and told me that in America, you learn to be soft enough to survive and sharp enough to remember. Because I had been standing in that lobby for 40 minutes waiting for my mate ceremony, and the three alpha kings who were supposed to choose me had just called me a stain in the language of my dead grandmother. So I kept smiling, and I tilted the tray, and I let one champagne flute slide just enough to wet the cuff of Dominic Vance's $2,000 shirt. Oh no, I said in my softest, dumbest, sweetest American voice. I am so sorry, sir. My hand slipped. His jaw locked. Lucien laughed under his breath. Cassian's eyes narrowed, and for 1/2 second I felt his scent shift, something dark and warm and curious, like cedar smoke catching on wet stone. I dropped my eyes before he could read mine. Don't look up, Silas. Don't let them see you understood, because if they knew, the game was over before it started. And I had not flown across 2 state lines and signed a contract with the Snowcrest Pax Matchmaking Council just to lose my one chance at a roof over my mother's head because 3 pretty rich boys couldn't keep their mouths shut. My name is Silas Quinn Calloway. I am 22 years old. I have 1 mother, no father, $87 in my checking account, and a scent my last heat suppressant doctored as distressingly rare. I came to Aspen on a Greyhound bus with 1 duffel bag and a letter from the council saying the Vance triplets, the Alpha Kings of Snowcrest, had requested an Omega from the registry. What the letter did not say was that they had already chosen someone else. I learned that approximately 4 minutes after I walked through the door. His name was Bryce Whitlock. He stood at the top of the staircase in a cream silk shirt, blonde, glowing, laughing at something Dominic had said before I'd arrived. He had the kind of face that gets cast in toothpaste commercials. He also had the kind of scent that did not, in any universe, qualify as distressingly rare. He smelled like vanilla and a little bit of money. The triplets watched him come down the stairs the way wolves watch a deer cross a road, and then they turned, all 3 of them, and saw me standing there with the tray. That was when the French started. I don't remember the exact moment my smile became armor. I just remember that my hands stopped shaking, and the room went very, very quiet inside my head, the way it does right before I read something. Because the second thing about me, the thing the council didn't write in the letter either, is that when I touch something a person has worn, held, bled on, or loved, I see them, pieces of them, flashes, a scent, a regret, a name they whispered in the dark. It's called psychometry. My grandmother had it. She said it was a gift. My mother said it was a curse. I say it depends on who I'm touching. And right then, with Dominic Vance's champagne soaking into the cuff of his shirt, my pinky finger brushed the wet silk. The image hit me like a slap. A woman in a hospital bed. A boy of maybe 12, hair the same dark gold as Dominic's, sobbing into her hand. A whisper in French. Promets-moi de ne jamais aimer un Omega. Promise me you'll never love an Omega. I yanked my hand back. Dominic was staring at me, not at the wet shirt, not at the tray, at me. His eyes had gone very still, the way an animal's eyes go still when it hears a sound it can't place. Apologies, I said softly, in my dumbest American voice. I will go get a towel. I turned. I walked across the marble. I did not run. I did not let the tray rattle. I made it all the way to the service hallway before my knees gave out, and I caught myself against the wall, pressing my forehead to the cool plaster, breathing through my nose the way my mother taught me. Promise me you'll never love an Omega. Someone had told Dominic Vance that a long time ago. Someone he had loved. And now he stood in a lobby with his 2 brothers, picking a vanilla-scented Omega off a staircase and mocking the rare one in French. I pressed my palm flat against the wall and exhaled. Okay, I thought. Okay, Silas, you came here for a roof. You came here for your mother. You came here to survive 3 alphas who think you're a stain. Let them think it. Let them say it. Let them choose the vanilla boy and laugh in French and think they got away with it. I lifted my head. I straightened my collar. I smoothed the front of my borrowed shirt. And then, very quietly in the language my grandmother sang me to sleep in, I whispered to the empty hallway, On va voir qui rira le dernier. We'll see who laughs last. The words tasted like copper on my tongue. I held them there for one slow breath, then folded them away the way my grandmother used to fold tissue paper before a funeral, carefully, cleanly, so no one could see the creases later. The service hallway smelled like lemon polish and old wood. Somewhere behind me on the other side of the swinging door, a string quartet started up. Cassian had requested Debussy. I knew because I had read the program in the council folder on the bus. I had read everything in that folder twice the way you read a map when you are about to walk into a country that does not want you. I pushed off the wall. A maid came around the corner with an empty tray and stopped short when she saw me. She was small, brown-haired, maybe 40, and her name tag said Marisol. She looked at my soaked cuff and the tray in my hands and made a noise in her throat that sounded almost like sympathy. "Honey," she said low, "you spilled on Mr. Dominic." "His hand was in the way of my tray," I said. She blinked. Then her mouth twitched. Was it now? Tragically, I handed her the tray. "Where's the kitchen?" She pointed with her chin. "End of the hall, left. Don't make eye contact with the chef. He bites." "So do I," said, and walked. Behind me, I heard her laugh, short and surprised, like she hadn't expected that out of a boy with a wet sleeve and pity eyes. The kitchen was a long, bright cave of copper and steam. A man in a white coat was screaming at a salmon. I slid past him along the wall, ducked into a side pantry, and pressed my back against the shelves of olive oil and imported flour. My hands were shaking again, not from fear, from the residue. That's what my grandmother called it, le résidu, the leftover of someone else's life clinging to your fingers after you read. I could still feel the hospital room, the smell of antiseptic, the boy's small shoulders. Promise-moi, promise me. I scrubbed my palms down the front of my borrowed shirt and tried to think. Dominic Vance had a dead mother, or a mother who had been dying when he was 12. Someone, the woman in the bed, had told him to never love an Omega, and a boy who looked like him had cried hard enough to break a small thing inside his chest. That kind of cracking does not heal. It calcifies. It becomes the shape a man is built around, which meant the cold I had felt from him in the lobby was not cold at all. It was scaffolding. I exhaled slowly through my nose. Okay, so Dominic is the wall, Lucien is the joke, Cassian is the question mark. I had 30 more seconds in this pantry before someone wondered where I had gone. I bent, lifted the hem of my pant leg, and checked the little envelope I had taped to my ankle on the bus. $200 in 20s, my passport. A folded photograph of my mother sitting on our porch in Bridgeport, Connecticut, one hand on her cane, the other holding a coffee mug that said "World's Okayest Mom." I had bought her that mug when I was 16. She still used it. She still had to use it carefully because her wrist trembled now in a way it did not used to. That was why I was here. Not for the Alpha Kings, not for the ceremony, not for whatever delicate game the matchmaking council was running with rich families and rare scents. For her, I straightened my pant leg. I smoothed my shirt. I walked back out. The hallway felt different now. I felt different. The smile I put back on was the same smile, but I was the one wearing it this time, not the room. I came back into the lobby through the side arch and stopped. Bryce Whitlock was standing in the middle of the marble floor in his cream silk shirt, holding both of Lucian's hands, laughing. Dominic had his arm around Bryce's waist. Cassian stood a little apart, watching the staircase like he was waiting for someone who was not coming. A man in a black suit, the council representative, raised a glass. "My friends," he said, "it is my distinct honor tonight to witness the formal selection of an Omega by the Vance brothers. Bryce Whitlock, the Snowcrest Pack welcomes you." The room applauded. I stood in the arch and felt nothing. Not heartbreak, not jealousy, not even surprise. I had known from the moment I walked in. I had known when Dominic's eyes slid off me like water off glass. I had known when Lucien said pity in French. I had known. But knowing and seeing are two different animals, and the seeing one bites harder. Bryce laughed and pressed his face into Dominic's shoulder. Dominic's hand spread across the small of his back, possessive and easy, the way a man touches something he has decided is his. Lucien leaned in and kissed Bryce's temple. Cassian still watched the staircase. And then slowly, like a compass needle dragging north, Cassian turned his head and looked straight at me. His scent hit me from across the room. It should not have. 20 feet of marble and music and air between us. But it came anyway. Low and warm, that cedar smoke I had caught in the lobby, layered now with something else, something darker like rain on hot stone. It curled around my throat and tugged. My knees almost did the thing they had done in the hallway. I locked them. His nostrils flared, just barely. The corner of his mouth did the half lift again, but this time it was not amusement. It was confusion. He took one step forward. Across the lobby, Dominic said something to Bryce, smiling, golden, owning the room. Lucien clapped along with the applause. Neither of them noticed their brother going still. Cassian took another step. I did not move. I could not. My scent was suppressed, double dosed this morning. Council approved, council mandated. There was no reason on earth he should have been able to catch anything off me at this distance. And yet, his head tilted, like a wolf trying to place a sound under snow. Walk away, Silas, I thought. Walk away right now. Instead, I lifted my chin 1/4 of an inch and smiled at him, the soft, dumb smile, the maid smile, the pity smile, the one that said, I am no one and you should keep walking. Cassian Vance stopped in the middle of the marble floor, and in French, so quiet I almost missed it, he said to himself, Qu'est-ce que tu es, toi? What are you, you? My heart kicked once hard against my ribs. I dropped my eyes. I turned. I walked out of the lobby with my hands folded behind my back like a butler, like a ghost, like a boy who had not understood a single word. But I had. I had understood all of it. The arch closed behind me like a held breath. The string quartet swelled into something soft and French. Because of course it did, because the universe has a sense of humor, and it is not a kind one. I walked past a pair of caterers carrying a silver tray of canapes that I could not have afforded with a month of my mother's Social Security check. And I kept my hands folded behind my back, and I did not look up. Marisol caught my elbow halfway down the corridor. Honey, she said, you look like a boy who just saw God and didn't like the haircut. Where's the staff bathroom? Third door, left. The one with the broken handle, you gotta lift it. Thank you. Don't cry in there. The acoustics are terrible. Everyone will hear. I don't cry, I said, and meant it. And she squeezed my elbow once like she didn't believe me but appreciated the effort I lifted the handle. I closed the door. I locked it. I turned around and pressed both palms flat against the cold porcelain of the sink and stared at the boy in the mirror. He looked frankly like garbage, pale. Dark circles under brown eyes that my grandmother used to call les yeux qui parlent trop fort, the eyes that talked too loud. Hair that had been styled 3 states ago and had not survived the greyhound. Lips bitten raw on the inside, because I had been chewing them since Dominic's shirt cuff and had not noticed. I looked at him. He looked at me. We had a small private agreement. You are not going to cry. You are not going to spiral. You are going to wash your hands and walk back out there and find out what the kitchen pays per hour, because the Vance brothers chose vanilla, and you came here for a roof. I turned the tap. The water ran cold. I cupped it and pressed it to the back of my neck, to my wrists, to the soft hollow under my ear where the scent gland sits. And I thought very hard about my mother's porch in Bridgeport and the smell of the lilac bush by her steps, and absolutely not about cedar smoke and rain on hot stone. It mostly worked. A knock at the door made me jump. Occupied, I said. I know, said a voice on the other side. Low, quiet. Not American, French. My whole body went still. Cassian. I did not answer. I stared at the door handle, the little broken handle that Marisol had told me to lift. I stared at it like it was a snake. I saw you walk in here, he said, in English now, soft. I just want to ask you something. I'm peeing, I said. A pause. You are not. I'm shy. It takes a minute. Another pause. This one had a shape to it. A shape that might have been a man trying not to laugh. What is your name? Why, I said. Because I asked. Sir, with respect, I am a member of the catering staff, and I do not believe my name is on the program. You are not catering staff. I have a tray. You had a tray. You gave it to Marisol. You walked in here with nothing in your hands and your mouth set like a man about to throw a punch. I closed my eyes. He had been watching. The whole time I had been telling myself nobody had seen me leave, that I had moved through the room like a piece of furniture. Cassian Vance had been watching me walk across his lobby. He had clocked the tray. He had clocked the maid. He had clocked the punch. I opened my eyes. Sir, I said very politely, I am going to ask you to please go back to your brother's engagement party. Why? Because if your fiancé sees you standing outside a bathroom with the kitchen boy, that's going to be a long ride home for someone, and I am betting it's me. The silence on the other side of the door was different now, heavier, listening. He is not my fiancé, Cassian said. Not your problem, he isn't. You speak strangely for a kitchen boy. I read a lot. You read in French? My heart kicked, just once. I leaned my forehead against the door, very gently, so he could not hear. I'm sorry, sir, I don't know what you mean. A long pause. Then in French, low and curious and very, very careful. Tu sens comme un secret. You smell like a secret. I did not breathe. I did not move. I counted 4 heartbeats, slow, the way my grandmother had taught me to count when I was small, and the residue from a stranger's coat was still rattling around in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I made my voice as flat and Midwestern and confused as a boy who had never heard a word of French in his life. I'm sorry, sir, I don't speak Spanish. There was a long, long pause. And then Cassian Vance laughed. It was a quiet laugh, almost under his breath. The kind of laugh a man makes when he has just realized he is in trouble and has decided to enjoy it. Open the door, he said in English. No, sir. Please. Especially no, sir. I am not going to hurt you. With respect, the last 3 people who said that to me in this house insulted me in a language I supposedly do not speak. The words were out before I could catch them. I closed my eyes. Silas, you absolute idiot. The silence on the other side of the door was now a third presence in the room. I could feel him through the wood. His scent had crept under the door, low and warm, cedar smoke and rain, and my knees did the thing they had done in the hallway. And this time I did not lock them in time. I sank down slowly until I was sitting on the cold tile with my back against the door, my forehead against my knees, my hands clenched into fists in the fabric of my borrowed pants. On the other side, very softly in French, Mon Dieu, my God, I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted copper. Go back to the party, sir, I said, in English, in my softest voice, the one my mother had taught me, the one that had gotten me across 2 state lines and into this house and onto this floor. What is your name? Cassian said again. Not a question this time. Silas, I whispered before I could stop myself. Silas Calloway. A breath on the other side of the door. Soft, surprised. Almost reverent. Silas, he said, like he was tasting it. Then footsteps. Slow, walking away. I sat on the tile with my forehead on my knees and listened to Cassian Vance leave. And I knew, with the cold, sure knowing my grandmother used to call la connaissance dans les os, the knowing in the bones, that I had just made a mistake I was going to spend the rest of this story paying for. I knew it the way you know a storm is coming before the sky tells you. The air in the bathroom had changed. The cold of the tile soaked through the seat of my pants. Somewhere in the house, the string quartet had moved on to something slower, sadder. The kind of music rich people play when they want to feel deep about their decisions. I stayed on the floor for another full minute. Then I got up. I washed my face. I dried it on the cheap paper towel from the dispenser because rich houses always put cheap paper towels in the staff bathrooms. And I have opinions about that, but those opinions were going to have to wait for a different decade. I lifted the broken handle. I opened the door. The corridor was empty. No Cassian, no Marisol. Just a long, polished floor and the soft Debussy bleeding through the walls and a faint smell of cedar smoke that I told myself I was imagining. I made it 3 steps before a hand closed around my wrist, not Cassian's, Bryce Whitlock's. He had come around the corner from the lobby side, still in his cream silk shirt, his blonde hair perfectly tousled, his vanilla scent rolling off him in waves that someone, somewhere, had probably paid a great deal of money for. Up close, he was even prettier than he had been on the staircase. Up close, his eyes were the color of swimming pool water and just about as deep. You, he said, smiling. You're the one with the tray. I am the one with no tray now, I said. I gave it away. Tragic loss. His smile flickered. He had not been expecting words back. You're cute, he said, recovering. What's your name? Staff, I said. That isn't a name. It's on my pay stub. His grip on my wrist tightened just enough for me to feel it. Not hard, just enough. The kind of squeeze a boy gives another boy when he wants him to know he could if he wanted to. I looked down at his hand. I looked back up at his face. Is there something I can help you with, sir? He tilted his head. The pool water eyes did a slow walk down my face, my throat, my borrowed shirt. Where did Cassian go? So that was the question. I felt the answer slot into place inside my chest like a key. Bryce had seen Cassian leave the lobby. Bryce had come looking. Bryce did not actually care about me. Bryce cared that the quiet brother, the question mark, had walked away from his own brother's engagement party and into a staff corridor, and Bryce wanted to know why. Sir, I have no idea where any of the Vance gentlemen are at this moment. I'm a temporary hire. I was looking for the kitchen. You came out of the bathroom. After looking for the kitchen, sir, I got turned around. This house is very large. He studied me. The vanilla scent thickened, just a little, like he was trying it as a tool. It did nothing to me. I have read the residue of a wedding ring that belonged to a woman who buried her husband in 1962, and let me tell you, vanilla boys do not register. I let my eyes go soft. I let my shoulders round in. I made myself small the way my mother taught me to make myself small in rooms, with men who squeeze wrists. Please, sir, I said. I just want to finish my shift. His grip loosened. Sweet thing, he murmured. He let me go and patted my cheek twice with 2 fingers, the way you'd pat a dog that almost bit you and then thought better of it. Run along. I did not run. I walked, calm, steady. 1 foot, then the other. I made it around the corner before I let my hand come up and press, very briefly, against the spot on my cheek where his fingers had touched. The residue from his hand was already creeping up my arm in faint flickers. A hotel room, a different alpha, Bryce laughing, a small white pill and a glass of champagne. I yanked my hand down before the image could finish. Oh, I thought very quietly. Oh, Bryce Whitlock, you are not a vanilla boy. You are a snake in a cream silk shirt. I tucked that knowing away. Carefully, cleanly, the way my grandmother folded tissue paper. The corridor ended at a set of double doors that opened onto a long glass solarium, snow pressed against the windows on 3 sides. White couches, a grand piano, a fire and a stone hearth taller than me, and standing in front of the fire, with his back to me, one hand braced on the mantel, was Cassian Vance. He had taken off his jacket. His white shirt was rolled to the elbow. The firelight ran along the line of his forearm and caught in the dark of his hair, and for 1 stupid half second, my body forgot the entire bathroom incident and tried to walk forward on its own. I caught the doorframe. I stopped. My voice came out steady. Bless. He did not turn around. Silas. The way he said my name should not have been legal in this state. Sir, I think I'm supposed to be in the kitchen. You're supposed to be wherever I tell you to be, he said, still not turning. Council contract. Page 4. Article 9. My mouth opened. Closed. He had read the contract. He had read my contract. How did you? I started. I asked the registrar. Now he turned. Slow. The firelight cut across half his face and left the other half in shadow. And his eyes were the same dark gray I had seen across the lobby, except up close they were not cold at all. They were tired. They were interested. Those are two different things, and they are both dangerous in different ways. Sit down, Silas. I would rather stand, sir. Sit down. Please, the please did it. Damn him. I crossed the rug. I sat on the very edge of the white couch, knees together, hands folded, the way my mother taught me to sit when I was a child in churches I did not belong to. Cassian looked at me for a long, long moment. Then he said in French, soft and almost gentle, Mon frère t'a humilié ce soir. Je veux savoir pourquoi tu n'as rien dit. My brother humiliated you tonight. I want to know why you said nothing. I kept my face blank. I made my eyes wide and confused. I tilted my head the smallest fraction, the way a boy does when a stranger speaks to him in a language he does not understand. I'm sorry, sir. I don't speak Spanish. Cassian Vance stared at me. And then, very slowly, the corner of his mouth lifted. Silas, he said, in English, you are going to be such a problem. I did not answer. I sat on the very edge of the white couch with my knees together and my hands folded in my lap. And I looked at him the way I had looked at every adult in every social services office my mother and I had ever sat in. Polite, empty, a little dim. The face that says, I do not understand the question and I would like to go home now. Cassian Vance did not buy it for a second. He walked away from the fire, slow steps. He did not come toward me. He went to a small side table by the piano and picked up a crystal decanter and poured 2 fingers of something amber into a glass. He did not drink it. He just held it. He turned it in his hand and watched the firelight move through the liquor. My mother spoke French, he said. The air in the solarium went thin. She was from Montreal, he continued, like we were old friends comparing weather. She taught us all 3 when we were small. Dominic, Lucien, me. She said it was the only language soft enough to say true things in. She died when I was 12. The image came back to me unbidden, the hospital bed. The boy with golden hair sobbing into a thin, pale hand. Promets-moi de ne jamais aimer en Omega. Except in the residue, the boy had been Dominic, not Cassian. I had only seen one boy. There were 3. My fingers tightened in my lap. Cassian was watching me. He saw the tightening. He saw everything. After she died, he said, my father took us out of French school. He said it was a soft language. He said soft things get people killed. He took 1 sip from the glass, set it down. I have not heard a stranger speak French in this house in 18 years. Not until tonight in a hallway through a bathroom door. Sir, I told you I don't speak. Silas. I closed my mouth. I am not angry, he said. I am not going to tell my brothers. I am not going to tell the council. I am not going to tell Bryce. His mouth did something complicated at the name. I want to know one thing. That is all I am going to ask you tonight. And after that, you can go to whatever kitchen you want. And I will not follow you. And I will not say your name again unless you ask me to. He came around the back of the couch. He did not sit next to me. He sat on the floor. Cassian Vance, in a $5,000 shirt, sat down cross-legged on a sheepskin rug at my feet, like a boy at a campfire, and looked up at me with those tired, interested eyes and asked his question. When my brother insulted you in the lobby, he said soft, and you understood every word, and you smiled anyway, and you spilled wine on his cuff on purpose, and you walked away. Why did you walk away? I stared at him. He waited. The fire popped. Snow tapped the glass. Somewhere very far away, in another wing of this absurd house, the string quartet was finishing Debussy. I did not mean to answer him. I opened my mouth to say, sir, I really don't. And what came out instead was the truth. In a voice so quiet I barely heard it myself. Because my mother needs the money. His face did not change, but something behind his eyes did. Something small and steady and dangerous, like a pilot light catching. Tell me, he said. I'm not going to tell you my life story, Mr. Vance. Tell me one piece of it, the piece that put you in my lobby tonight. I looked at his hands. He had nice hands, long fingers. A small white scar across the knuckle of his right thumb, pianist hands maybe. He had requested Debussy. I looked at the fire instead, safer. My mother has MS, I said, multiple sclerosis. She was diagnosed when I was 15. She used to teach French at a high school in Connecticut. She can't teach anymore. She can barely hold a coffee mug. Her medication is $1,200 a month and our insurance covers half. I have been working 3 jobs since I was 17 and it has not been enough. The Matchmaking Council pays a signing bonus when an Omega is selected by a registered Alpha family, $40,000. It is enough to keep her in her apartment for 2 years. It is enough to keep her off the floor of my aunt's spare room, which is the only other option. And my aunt is a woman who would charge her rent for the privilege of being humiliated. I stopped. I had not meant to say any of that. I had said all of it. So I came, I said. I knew there were 3 other Omegas on the short list. I knew Bryce Whitlock was probably already chosen, because his father owns half the natural gas in Wyoming, and the council does not pick poor boys when rich boys are available. I came anyway, because probably chosen is not definitely chosen, and $40,000 is $40,000. And I would have stood in that lobby and let your brother call me a stain in 8 more languages if it meant my mother could stay in her apartment. I finally looked at him. His eyes were wet. Cassian Vance, the cold, quiet question mark, the one his own brother had laughed alongside an hour ago, was sitting on a rug at my feet with wet eyes. He did not let the wet fall. He just held it, the way I'd held the copper taste of my own words an hour ago. Silas, he said. Soft. Did the council tell you Bryce was already chosen? No, sir. Did anyone tell you? No, sir. He closed his eyes. They did not choose Bryce tonight, he said. We chose him 3 weeks ago. The selection ceremony was a formality. Bryce's family signed the contract on October 11th. The council brought you here as the official second. The world made a small, soft sound, like a wine glass cracking under a cloth. The second, I said, the fallback, in case Bryce withdrew. And the 40,000. He opened his eyes. The second does not get paid, Silas. I do not remember standing up. I just remember being on my feet, and the room being very white at the edges, and my mother's face, the world's okayest mom mug, the lilac bush, the porch, all of it sliding sideways inside my head. I had come for nothing. I had stood in that lobby and let them call me a stain for nothing. Cassian rose, slow, careful, like a man approaching a deer in a road. Silas. I held up one hand. I did not look at him, I said, in the clearest, quietest French my grandmother ever taught me. Ne me touchez pas, do not touch me. And I walked out of the solarium. I did not run. I did not slam the door. I walked the way my mother had taught me to walk out of any room that had taken something from me. Spine straight, chin level, hands loose. The walk of a boy who has been told his entire life that the only thing more expensive than dignity is the cost of getting it back. The corridor blurred at the edges. I made it past the piano, past the long mirror, past the alcove with the marble bust of some Vance ancestor who was probably the reason any of this had happened to me in the first place. My ears were ringing. The number 40,000 kept folding and unfolding inside my chest like a piece of paper somebody had handed me as a joke. I did not cry, I will say that for myself. I have never cried in a rich person's hallway, and I was not about to start in Aspen. I made it to the side door that led out to the carriage drive before a hand closed around my elbow. This time it was Cassian. Silas, wait. Mr. Vance, take your hand off me before I make a scene that follows your family into the obituary section. I am not a fallback. I am not a second. I am a person with a name and a mother and $87 in my checking account and a Greyhound ticket that does not leave until tomorrow at 6 in the morning. So either you take your hand off my arm or you drive me to a motel because I am not spending another minute in this house. He let go of my elbow. He did not step back. Come with me, he said. To where? My study. There is a phone in there. There is a door that locks. There is a kettle. You are going to call your mother and tell her you are safe. And then you are going to sit down. And I am going to bring you tea. And then we are going to talk about the $40,000. I stared at him. Mr. Vance, I said carefully, I do not want your charity. It is not charity. Then what is it? He looked at me. The firelight was gone here. The corridor had only the soft yellow light of the wall sconces, and they made his face look younger than it had on the rug. Younger, tireder, sorrier. It is a council violation, he said. They are required by law to disclose a fallback contract to the fallback. They did not. I can make a phone call tonight that will cost them their license. I can make another phone call that puts $40,000 in your mother's bank account by Monday morning, and the only person it will inconvenience is my father, who can afford the inconvenience. The hallway went very still. Why? I said. Because my brother humiliated you tonight in a language he had no right to use, and you spilled wine on him for it, and you walked away with your head up. And I have been a Vance for 31 years, and I have never seen anyone do that twice in one night. That is not a reason. It is the only reason I have right now, Silas. Do you want it or not? I did want it. I wanted it so badly my hands started to shake. I shoved them into my pockets. I looked at the floor. I made myself breathe through my nose the way my mother had taught me. Show me the phone, I said. He turned, I followed. The study was 3 doors down. He held the door open. I walked in. The room smelled like old books and cedar and a little bit of cold pipe tobacco. And there was a green lamp on the desk and a kettle on a tray and a window that looked out onto the snow falling sideways across the carriage drive. And despite everything, despite the 40,000 and the fallback and the vanilla snake and the cream silk shirt and my mother's world's okayest mom mug 1,000 miles away, my shoulders dropped half an inch. It was a good room. I hated him a little for having such a good room. He nodded at the phone on the desk. Take your time. I am going to get the tea. He closed the door behind him. I sat in the leather chair. I picked up the receiver. I dialed my mother's number with hands that almost behaved. She picked up on the second ring. Sweetheart, are you okay? It is past 10. Her voice did something to me. Tired and careful and a little slurred from the new medication, the way she got after 8, and underneath it all the same warmth she had used to sing me to sleep with when I was 4. Hi, Mom. Silas, you sound funny. Where are you? I'm in Colorado. I told you I was going to be in Colorado. You told me you were going for an interview. It was an interview. A pause. Sweetheart, did you get the job? I closed my eyes. I pressed the receiver to my forehead. I thought about the lilac bush, the porch, the mug, and a man in a $5,000 shirt sitting cross-legged at my feet because my brother had called me a stain. I think I might have, I said. I am not sure yet. But Mom, listen, if a payment comes into your account next week, do not panic. Do not call the bank. Just let it sit. Silas, what did you do? Nothing illegal. I promise. Silas Quinn Calloway. Mom, I love you. I will call you tomorrow. I hung up before she could ask the next question. I sat there with my hands flat on the desk and breathed. The door opened. Cassian came in carrying a tea tray. He set it down on the small table by the window. He poured. He did not ask what I took. He just brought the cup over and set it down on the desk in front of me. Plain black, 2 sugars. The way my grandmother used to drink it. And the steam came up and touched my face, and the wet I had not let fall in the solarium finally slid down one cheek before I could stop it. I did not wipe it away. I did not let him see me wipe it away. That would have been worse than the falling. Cassian sat in the chair across the desk. He did not look at the wet on my cheek. He looked at the tea. Silas, he said, soft, drink, and then tell me about your mother. I drank. The tea was perfect. Of course it was. He was that kind of monster. And in the quiet that followed, with the snow falling sideways outside and the green lamp throwing its small steady light across the wood, I started to talk. About Bridgeport. About the lilac bush. About the world's okayest mom mug. About a woman who had taught French to other people's children for 20 years and could no longer hold a pen. Cassian did not interrupt. He did not look away. He did not check his phone. He just listened. And somewhere in the middle of it, when my voice cracked on the word Kane, he reached across the desk and laid one hand, palm up, in front of mine. He did not take my hand. He just left his there. In case I wanted it, I looked at his hand. It sat there on the desk between us, palm up, fingers loose, that small white scar across the knuckle of his right thumb catching the light from the green lamp. It was a quiet kind of offer. The kind that did not push. The kind that waited. I did not take it. I almost did. My fingers twitched in my lap. I felt the pull, low in my chest, the same low, warm tug I had felt across the lobby when his scent had crossed 20 feet of marble and pulled at my throat. I wanted, for one stupid weak second, to put my hand in his and find out what his residue tasted like. I knew better. If I touched him, I would see things. Bad things. Maybe good things. Either way, things I did not have the energy to carry tonight on top of $40,000 I had not earned, and a greyhound at 6 in the morning, and a mother who could not hold a pen. I folded my hands tighter in my lap. Cassian saw. He did not move. He did not take his hand back. He just let it stay there, like a candle he was not in a hurry to blow out. Silas, he said, soft. I am going to make a call now to my father's attorney. I want you to sit here and drink your tea. Is that all right? Yes, I said. If you need anything, the bathroom is through that door. There are biscuits in the tin on the shelf behind you. Marisol's husband bakes them. They are good. I almost laughed. He had clocked Marisol's name. Of course he had. He stood. He picked up the receiver of the second phone, the one on the side table by the window, and he stepped into the bay alcove. His back was to me. His voice dropped low and clipped, lawyer voice, money voice, the voice I had not heard him use all night. I drank my tea. I watched the snow. The door behind me opened. I knew before I turned around. The air changed. The cedar smoke I had been breathing for an hour was suddenly cut through with something colder, sharper, like ice over iron. Dominic. He stood in the doorway in his wet cuff shirt and his open collar, and the gold of his hair was a mess now, like he had been dragging his hand through it. His eyes found me in the leather chair and went flat. Behind him, Lucien, pretty dark-haired, the playful one, not playful now. And behind both of them, smiling like he had been waiting all night for this exact picture, Bryce Whitlock. Cassian, Dominic said, not a question. Cassian turned from the alcove. The phone was still at his ear. He saw his brothers. He saw Bryce, his jaw set. Give me one moment, he said into the receiver, and lowered it. What, Dominic said softly in French, is the kitchen boy doing in your study at midnight? I did not flinch. I sipped my tea. I let my eyes go vague. I tilted my head the dumb, confused tilt. The maid tilt, the pity tilt. Bryce was watching me, specifically me. Had that swimming pool look in his eyes again. The slow walk down my face, and his mouth had a little curl at the corner that I did not like at all. Brother, Cassian said in English, careful, this is not what it looks like. Then tell me what it looks like. It looks like I am helping a member of the council registry who was misinformed about her contract status. The word fell into the room like a coin. Her, he had said her. In English, in front of his brothers, in front of Bryce. Cassian's eyes flicked to me 1/2 second after the word left his mouth, and I saw the catch in his throat, the realization, the oh no. He had not meant to use the wrong pronoun. He had been protecting me. He had been trying to scrub me down into a generic registry case, some interchangeable fallback omega, and his tongue had betrayed him to the only word that would not give me away to his brothers. Except the thing about lies is they only work if everyone in the room is on the same side of them, and Bryce Whitlock was not. Bryce's eyes did not go vague. Bryce's eyes sharpened. Bryce had been watching me in the lobby. Bryce had squeezed my wrist in the hallway. Bryce had asked where Cassian had gone, and now Bryce was standing in a study doorway watching the quiet brother trip over a pronoun for a kitchen boy in borrowed clothes. Bryce smiled. Cassian, sweetheart, he said, soft. I think you mean him. The room stopped. Dominic's head turned, slow, toward me. I set the teacup down, carefully, without a sound. Stand up, Dominic said in English. I stood. Look at me. I looked at him. His eyes up close were the same dark gold as his hair. They were also up close the eyes of the boy in the hospital room from the residue, all grown up. The little boy who had sobbed into his dying mother's hand and promised her he would never love an omega. He was looking at me now the way a man looks at a thing that has wandered into his garden and turned out to be a snake. Tu comprends ce que je dis, he said. You understand what I am saying. The bathroom door, the hallway, the pronoun, the way I had stood up too fast in the solarium. The way I had walked through his lobby with my head up after he had called me a stain. I could have lied one more time. I could have done the wide-eyed dumb thing. I could have said I don't speak Spanish and tilted my head and gotten out of this house with my tea and my $40,000 in my mother's apartment. I was tired. I was so tired. I lifted my chin. Chaque mot, I said, very softly, in the French my grandmother had sung me to sleep in. Every word. Dominic's face did something I will not describe, because some things are not for the page. Lucien made a small sound. Almost a laugh. Bryce, behind them, smiled wider. Oh, Dom, he said sweetly. You call this one a stain in French, in front of him. For an hour. Did not look at Bryce. Dominic was still looking at me. And the gold in his eyes had gone to ice. And the ice had gone to something I had not seen there before. Something underneath the cold. Something a great deal more dangerous than anger. Get out of my house, he said. Brother, Cassian said sharply. Get him out of my house, Dominic, now Cassian. Lucien moved first. He stepped into the room, soft, almost gentle, and he held out his hand to me the way a man holds out his hand to a horse he intends to put down kindly. Come on, sweet thing, he said. His voice was soft and his eyes were not. I will walk you to the door. Bryce in the hallway was already laughing, and I, in the middle of the rug, with the cedar smoke and the green lamp, and Cassian's hand still half open on the desk where he had left it for me, finally felt the thing my mother had warned me about my whole life, the crack inside my chest where pride lives. It did not break, it got quiet, which is worse. Quiet pride is the kind you walk out of a room with. Loud pride is the kind that screams and gets dragged out by the elbow. I had watched my mother choose the quiet kind every time the world tried to shove her into a chair. I knew the shape of it. I knew the weight. I picked up my teacup. I finished my tea. 3 swallows. Slow, black, 2 sugars. I set the cup down on the saucer with a small clean click that the whole room heard. Lucien's hand was still out. Patient. Almost kind. Come on, sweet thing. I looked at his hand. I looked at his face. He had his mother's eyes too. I could see it now that I was looking. All 3 of them had the same eyes underneath, just colored differently, like the same window in 3 different lights. Mr. Vance, I said, to Lucien. Polite. American. Soft. Yes, sweet thing. If you touch me, I will read you. His hand did not move, but something behind his eyes did. What did you say? I said, if you touch me, I will read you. Every secret. Every shame. Every woman whose name your brother does not know. I will pull it out of your skin like a thread, and I will leave with it. And you will spend the rest of your life wondering what I did with it. The room went still. Behind Lucien, Bryce stopped smiling. Dominic did not move. His eyes were still on me, still ice. But the ice had a hairline crack down the middle now, the kind of crack that runs through a frozen lake right before you hear it sing. Lucien lowered his hand, slow. He did not step back, but he also did not step forward. You are bluffing, he said, light, almost amused. Not quite. Cassian, from the alcove, said one word. Silas. It was a warning. Not to them. To me. Don't. Don't tell them what you are. I did not look at him. I had already told them. The pull on the thread had already started. What was the point of holding back the rest of the spool? Mr. Vance, I said again. To Dominic, this time. I made my voice level. I made my voice my mother's voice, the teacher voice, the one that had explained the subjunctive to 20 years of sophomores in a Bridgeport public high school. You called me a stain tonight in the language your dying mother taught you, in front of two of your brothers, in front of a man who put a small white pill in another alpha's drink in a hotel room sometime in the last 6 months. You did this in your own lobby. You did it on the night of your engagement. You did it because you made a promise to a woman in a hospital bed when you were 12 years old, and you have been keeping that promise so hard for 19 years that you cannot tell the difference anymore between protecting your heart and bleeding it dry. Dominic Vance did not breathe. I do not think any of them did. I am not asking you for an apology, I said. I do not want one. I am telling you what I know, so you will understand that I am leaving this house tonight with my dignity intact, and you are not going to follow me, and you are not going to make a single phone call to the council about me, and you are not going to send your brother Lucien to do anything to me on the way out. Because if you do, I will go to the papers in Aspen, and then the papers in Denver, and then the papers in Connecticut, and I will tell every one of them about the pill in the champagne glass. Are we understanding each other? Bryce's face had gone the color of his shirt. Dominic's eyes flicked 1/2 second to Bryce. Then back to me. He had not known. He had not known about the pill. He was a cold man and a cruel man and a man who had said terrible things to me in his mother's language. But he had not known what his future husband was. I saw it land. I saw him file it. I saw him decide in that 1/2 second that whatever he was going to do about Bryce, he was going to do it later, and not in front of a kitchen boy with a gift. Get him a coat, Dominic said. He did not say it to Lucien. He said it to the air, to the room, to the house. Mara Soriel appeared in the doorway like she had been waiting in the hall the whole time. Maybe she had been. I did not ask. She held out a black wool coat that was not mine, and a pair of gloves that were too big, and a knit hat that smelled faintly of her husband's biscuits, and she helped me into all of it without saying a single word, and her hands on my shoulders were the kindest hands that had touched me all night. I buttoned the coat. I pulled on the gloves. I tucked my hair under the hat. I picked up my own thin jacket from the chair where I had left it an hour ago, and I draped it over my arm so that I would have something of my own going out the door. I walked to the threshold. I stopped. I turned my head 1/4 inch. Not to Dominic, not to Lucien, not to Bryce, to Cassian. He was still in the alcove. The receiver was still in his hand. His knuckles on the receiver were white. His eyes on me were the same tired, interested gray they had been in the firelight, except now they had something new in them. Something that looked a great deal like a man watching the only good thing in his house walk out of it. I did not smile at him. I did not soften, but I let my eyes hold his for one full breath long enough that he would know. I heard you. I know you tried. It was not enough. It does not get to be enough. His mouth moved. He did not say anything out loud. He mouthed in French, Je suis désolé. I am sorry. I turned my head back. I walked out of the study, down the corridor, through the lobby with its marble floor and its dead chandelier light and its emptied champagne flutes, past the doorman who would not meet my eyes, out the front door of the Vance estate, down the long stone steps, into the snow. The cold hit my face like a hand. I did not flinch. Marisol came running down the steps behind me with an umbrella she had not opened. She pressed something into my glove palm, a folded piece of paper, a car key. Take it, she whispered. It is the old Subaru by the garage. My husband uses it for grocery runs. Bring it back when you are ready. There is no rush. Marisol. Honey, go. I went. The old Subaru was the color of dishwater, and the color suited my night perfectly. The driver's side door groaned when I pulled it open. The interior smelled like Marisol's husband's biscuits, and the faint ghost of a cigarette somebody had smoked years ago and felt guilty about ever since. I sat in the driver's seat. I closed the door. I put both gloved hands on the steering wheel and breathed in through my nose and out through my mouth, 4 counts each, the way my grandmother had taught me to breathe when the world had handed me something I could not yet carry. The snow on the windshield made a small clean wall between me and the Vance estate. I started the engine. It coughed. It caught. I drove. I did not look at the house in the rearview mirror. I am not lying about that. I just drove. The carriage drive curved long and slow through the pines, and the headlights cut a yellow tunnel through the snow, and somewhere between the third bend and the gate my hands stopped shaking. Not because I was brave, because I was done. There is a difference, and I learned it tonight in a French accent. I made it 3 miles down the mountain road before I saw the headlights behind me. 2 sets, coming fast. I did not speed up. I did not slow down. I drove the way Marisol's husband must have driven this car 1,000 times, careful and slow on a road that knew him. And the headlights gained, and the headlights gained, and the headlights pulled up beside me at the long, flat stretch by the trailhead, and a black SUV slid in front of me and stopped sideways across the road. I stopped the Subaru. I put it in park. I sat there with both gloved hands on the wheel. The driver's door of the SUV opened, and Dominic Vance stepped out into the snow in nothing but his ruined shirt. The second SUV pulled up behind mine. Lucien got out of one side. Cashin got out of the other, all three of them, in the middle of a mountain road, at 1 a.m, in a snowstorm, without coats. I rolled down my window 2 inches. The cold came in like a knife. I welcomed it. "Mr. Vance," I said, politely, to the air, because I did not know which one I was talking to, and it did not matter. "You are blocking the road." "Silas." That was Dominic. "Get back in your truck, sir." "Silas, please. Let me say one thing." I looked at him through the 2-inch crack of the window. The gold of his hair was wet with snow. His mother's eyes looked out of his face at me, and I thought very clearly she would be ashamed of you tonight. I did not say it. I did not need to. He already knew. "You have 1 minute," I said. "I will time it on the dashboard clock." He did not argue. He stepped closer. He stopped a respectful 3 feet from the door. "I did not know," he said. "About Bryce, about the pill, about the contract. I will fix all of it tonight. The 40,000 will be in your mother's account before dawn. I am calling my father's attorney from this road. I am ending the engagement before sunrise. None of this fixes what I said in the lobby. I know that." "You are correct, sir. I do not have words for what I said in the lobby. You had words for it earlier, sir, in French. You had several." Lucien made a small sound, not a laugh this time. "The other kind." I did not look at him. "Mr. Vance," I said to Dominic, "your mother taught you French because she said it was the only language soft enough to say true things in. You used it tonight to say cruel ones. You used it because you have spent 19 years promising a dying woman you would never love an Omega. And tonight an Omega walked into your lobby and you smelled something on him that scared you. And you said the worst things you could think of in the safest language you knew because you thought I could not hear them. You thought wrong." Dominic closed his eyes. The snow fell on his hair. He did not move to wipe it away. "My grandmother sang to me in French," I said. "It was the first language I was ever loved in. You mocked me in it for an hour. You should be more careful what language you humiliate people in, Mr. Vance. You never know who is listening." Behind him, Lucien took one step forward, hands up, that pretty desperate face I had seen across a lobby 6 hours and a lifetime ago. "Silas, sweet thing, listen. We can fix this. Come back to the house. We will start over. I will personally drive you to the council in the morning. We can rewrite the contract. We can make you the primary. Bryce is gone. Bryce is done. Bryce is finished. Just come back, Mr. Vance," I said to Lucien. "Soft, you are talking too much." His mouth closed. Cassian had not moved. He stood by the back of his SUV, in his white shirt, with the sleeves still rolled to the elbow, snow on his shoulders, snow in his hair, and he looked at me through the crack in the window, and he did not say a word. He just looked tired, interested, sorry. 3 things at once, the way he had looked at me on the rug. Except now there was a 4th thing underneath. And the 4th thing was the look of a man watching the only good thing in his house drive away from him on a mountain road. He raised one hand, slow. He laid it flat against the cold metal of the SUV, palm up, fingers loose, in case I wanted it. The same offer, one more time. From a distance now, across a road in a snowstorm with 2 of his brothers between us, I felt the pull again, low, warm, cedar smoke and rain on hot stone. My fingers twitched on the steering wheel inside Marisol's husband's 2 big gloves. I did not take it. "Mr. Cashin," I said, through the window, across the snow. "Silas, I think I loved you a little tonight. I think if you had been honest in the lobby instead of clever in the study, I would have loved you longer than you deserved. I am telling you so you know. I am telling you because you sat on a rug at my feet and left your hand open on a desk, and that was the closest anyone has come to seeing me in a long time. I am telling you because you should carry it." His face did something. He did not let it show fully. He was a Vance. He had been raised to not. But I saw the wet at the edges of his eyes catch the headlights, and I saw his hand on the SUV close into a fist, slow, the way a man closes his hand on something he is not allowed to keep. "Silas," he said. "Move the truck, Mr. Vance. Silas, move the truck." Dominic moved first. He turned, he walked back to his SUV. He got in. He pulled it forward off the road, slow, careful, the way you move a body. Lucien followed him. Cassian stood another half-second in the snow, palm still flat on the metal, eyes still on me through the crack of the window. Then he lowered his hand. He got into the second SUV. He pulled it onto the shoulder. The road in front of me was clear. I rolled the window up. I put the Subaru in drive. I drove past them. I did not look. I did not slow. The headlights of both SUVs stayed behind me on the shoulder. 2 pairs of yellow eyes in the snow, and they did not follow. I drove down the mountain. The sky behind me turned the color of bone, then ash, then the soft pale gray that comes before a real sunrise. The pines thinned. The road flattened. Somewhere around the second town I passed, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I did not check it. I knew what it was. A wire transfer notification from my mother's bank. $40,000. Dropped into her account before dawn exactly the way he had promised. I did not cry. I did not smile. I just drove. I drove until the gas gauge dipped to a quarter tank, and then I pulled into a diner outside Glenwood Springs that had a hand-painted sign and a string of Christmas lights still up in May, and I sat in a booth by the window and ordered black coffee and 2 eggs, and I ate them slow, and outside the window the sun came up over the mountains, the color of a held breath finally let go. The waitress topped off my coffee. She had kind eyes and a name tag that said Dolores. "Honey," she said, "you look like a boy who just walked out of something." "I did," I said. "Are you okay?" I thought about it. I thought about my mother in her apartment in Bridgeport with her world's okayest mom mug and her lilac bush and $40,000 in her bank account she did not yet know about. I thought about Marisol's car keys in my pocket. I thought about 3 Alpha Kings in a snowstorm on a mountain road, watching a Subaru drive away from them, and the quiet one with his palm flat on cold metal. I thought about a boy in a borrowed shirt with $87 in his checking account, who had stood in a marble lobby 6 hours ago and let 3 rich men call him a stain in the first language he was ever loved in. That boy was gone. The one drinking coffee in a Glenwood Springs diner was somebody new. "Yeah, Dolores," I said.
I think I am.
She patted my hand and walked away. I sat in the booth a long time. I watched the sun come up. I drank my coffee. I did not check my phone. I did not turn around. They spoke about me in a language they thought I did not understand. In the end, I was the one who finally learned how to leave. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed it, you'll definitely love the next one. It's even crazier and more intriguing than you can imagine. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned. The next story drops soon.